Since its 1937 release, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has been viewed as a frontier-breaking film for its technological accomplishments. As the first full-length animated movie, it was a huge risk for Walt Disney Studios, but it paid off. Yet, its high profits showed the filmmakers at Disney how profitable princess movies could be, and in doing so, create a barrier. Princess movies continued to follow the same storyline, showing pretty female characters who cleaned house, sang, and awaited a man's rescue. It was not until 2013 that this pattern was broken by Frozen, a film that proved Disney movies with strong female characters could be successful. During the Great Depression, when money was tight and life difficult for most Americans, movies became popular as escapes from reality. Yet for years, these films were live action. Cartoons existed only as short films shown before the main movie. One popular cartoon character was Mickey Mouse. Made by Walt Disney and his co-workers at Disney Studios, these cartoons profited in theaters, and this money made Walt wonder if it was possible to realize his frontier-breaking dream of making a full-length animated film. In 1935, Walt pitched his idea to the studio and they got to work. The film was directed by William Cottrell, David Hand, and Wilfred Jackson, adapted by Ted Sears, and produced by Walt Disney. At an estimated budget of $250,000 to $500,000, the film was a huge gamble. If it failed, Walt Disney Studios would close down permanently due to lack of available loans during the Depression. Behind Walt's back, people in Hollywood began to call the movie Walt Disney's Folly. Walt wanted his characters to be lifelike, so his animators studied human movements, from the way a beard wags to how clothing blows in the wind.
First thing I did when I got a little money to experiment, I put all my artists back in school.
Walt brought in live actors and recorded footage of them for reference. Finally, his animators began to draw their pictures. With 700 artists, 500 miles of paper, and 24 pictures for each second of time, the movie was not an easy task. Meanwhile, the budget continued to climb, reaching nearly $1.7 million. But the hard work paid off. Audiences flocked to the theater to watch the movie. The story follows a princess whose stepmother envies her beauty. The queen decides to kill her, and Snow White flees to a cottage, which she cleans before realizing it belongs to 7 dwarves. The dwarves decide to protect her, but while they are out, the queen in disguise poisons Snow White. The dwarves chase the queen, who falls to her death. A prince arrives and kisses Snow White awake. They marry and live happily ever after. The movie made $8 million and was a success with critics. As the newspaper Harrison's report said in Film Review, intelligent adults will marvel at the mechanical ingenuity that went into the making of it. And it is something to marvel at, for at times the characters seem almost lifelike. For instance, when Snow White dances, her steps are in perfect time with the music. When the 7 dwarves sing or talk, the movement of their lips is in perfect coordination with the dialogue. The movie won an Oscar award. The money it made allowed Disney to make more animated movies. After focusing on producing propaganda films during World War II, Disney Studios released Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, both of which were written and directed by men and involve a young woman who gets into trouble and needs a man to save her. Even after Walt Disney's death in 1966, the studio continued to make movies following that storyline. A girl who ended up in a bad situation and needed a man whom she barely knew to rescue her. These movies influenced generations of women who grew up idealizing their pretty protagonists. My grandmothers were among these people.
I choose Sleeping Beauty because I think when I was a little girl, I favored that one because Princess Aurora was so pretty. She had beautiful dresses and beautiful hair. The whole scene with growing thorns and Maleficent was so scary and fierce, and the brave prince fighting the thorns and fighting his way into the castle and rescuing her. So I think I found that all very romantic. Probably Snow White was one of my favorites as a kid. And she had to deal with all those men. Poor Snow White. All those little men helped each other and they cared about each other. And those are the kind of things I like about the princess stories.
In later movies, such as The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, the princesses rebel, defying their father's wishes about who they'll marry. But they still become the victims of the evil plots and need to be rescued by their future husbands.
My favorite Disney princess movie growing up was The Little Mermaid. I loved the songs, of course, and the visuals, but I think I really liked the story of a young girl who wasn't happy in her life and was magicked away to a new and exciting world just by falling in love.
In princess movies, romance is central to a woman's life. Yet in movies about male characters, such as Dumbo, Pinocchio, and Hercules, romance doesn't solve the hero's problems, and often isn't even involved. The princess movies are simply another form of men telling women how to live their lives. Be pretty, hardworking, and kind, and you'll get married and live happily ever after. Even after first-wave feminism, which took place in the late 19th to early 20th century and pushed for women to have the right to vote, and second-wave feminism, which took place in the 1960s to the 1990s and pushed for social equality, movies like Beauty and the Beast, Princess and the Frog, and Tangled continue to show women as ultimately in need of a male rescue, and continue to profit. The movies drew enthusiastic audiences, though they portray women in an old-fashioned way. Even Brave focuses on a girl's trouble with courtship, though Merida does not marry any of her suitors in the end. And it was made by Pixar, a studio separate from but owned by Disney. Then Disney made Frozen. Based on the Snow Queen, a fairy tale about a boy kidnapped by a Snow Queen and the girl who saves him, this movie had been in the works for almost 70 years. Yet the studio couldn't settle on an approach. Several concepts were suggested, but none of them were used. Then, in 2011, Disney tried again. The Snow Queen, named Elsa, was still imagined as evil. The heroes Anna and Kristoff were trying to stop her from freezing the kingdom. But there was problems. One of the biggest was that the writers couldn't understand why Anna would take it as her responsibility to defeat Elsa. They searched for a connection between the characters. Then, a breakthrough. Someone suggested Elsa and Anna be sisters. Jennifer Lee was hired to write and co-direct Frozen. As the first female director in Disney's animation department, she was on a frontier. Unlike in other princess movies, Jennifer focused the script on the theme of love versus fear rather than good versus evil. Meanwhile, the married songwriters, Robert and Christian Anderson Lopez, wrote Let It Go, showing Elsa as a misunderstood hero. The song solved the problem of how to make Elsa a likable character. On Thanksgiving of 2013, Disney Studios released Frozen. The movie follows Anna and Elsa, sisters separated because Elsa has ice powers and is afraid to hurt Anna with them. Anna gets engaged to Hans, a man she's never met before, at Elsa's coronation. The sisters argue, Elsa's powers are revealed, and she runs away. Anna follows her with help from an outdoorsman named Kristoff. When they find Elsa, she accidentally freezes Anna's heart. Anna needs an act of true love to save her. She returns to Hans, who reveals he's a villain who wants to rule the kingdom. Elsa returns, and Hans tries to kill her. Anna saves Elsa, and in doing so thaws her own heart. The act of true love in this movie is between siblings, not a romantic couple. Elsa rules her kingdom alone and has no love interest. Though Kristoff and Anna fall in love, they only share a kiss. As the movie repeatedly points out, making fun of earlier princess movies,
you can't marry a man you just met.
The movie was a hit with critics, a box office success, and won 2 Oscar awards, one for Best Animated Film and one for Best Song. Like many girls, I watched the movie over and over and spent most of 2014 and 2015 in an Elsa costume. As an older sister, I like that both sisters star, since many Disney movies sideline siblings. I love the music and singing the songs as duets with my sister. We didn't realize it then, but we were absorbing a message about girl power.
So, in Frozen, it's like girls should be tough and sisters should be loving with each other, which I really like because I have a sister of my own.
Under the influence of female director and writer, a female songwriter, and third-wave feminism, a movement that argued women should be pretty while also being as strong as men, Frozen broke the pattern of princess movies. While Snow White was an achievement in terms of technology, it set an example of how Disney princess movies could profit, with stories built around characters who fit the damsel in distress stereotype. Frozen's success proved that princess films where women defied traditional roles could be a success, breaking the pattern Snow White had set and pushing princess movies to a new frontier.